Earlier, we spoke with Oluseye Olusoga, CEO of Parthian Partners, who shared insights on the Nigerian capital market. Take a listen.
Nigerian capital market is in its very early stages. I'll say it's like we're in early days. When you compare how far we've come to what's possible, I mean, Nigeria today has over 200 million people. And the majority of that population is below the age of 40. So it means that there's scope for growth in terms of people's ability to save if those people, the workforce is put into what I'll call productive work. And also the ability for them to create wealth and for people or businesses to make money from that population, assuming they're productive, is huge. Now, when you compare Nigeria to other countries, even within Africa, when you look at the proportion of our capital market activities contribution to GDP, it's quite small when you compare it to countries like South Africa or even a very tiny country that I love called Namibia. So I think that the capital market, whilst it's grown, whilst it showed that in Africa it's somewhat developed, it still has a lot of scope and growth in terms of the products that can come to the market, in terms of the opportunities available. And I also think that, traditional markets still have room for growth, but there are also new markets like the digital assets that would potentially develop over the next couple of years, and I think could actually explode in the markets. But then there's a lot of work that has to be done on the regulatory side to ensure that investors are actually protected. You also then have the commodities. I think that we're at the cusp of what I would call a commodities, boom, because, and it's a different kind of commodities, I would say, because when you look at what do you call rare earth metals, Africa has quite a vast amount of that. And if AI is the future, they're going to need a lot of these rare earth metals to actually push a lot of these chips. And so I think that there's going to be a huge opportunity for new products to come to the market and for the Nigerian capital markets to actually grow. So I think that we're just getting started. I think it's a joint effort between the government and the private sector. I think that the government's role is to create enabling policies and what I would call an enabling environment. The private sector is supposed to work hand in hand with the government to ensure that the right policies are in place, and for us to also do the work and invest in ensuring that we can create productive sectors and also bring efficiency to and investment to the sectors that we currently participate in. And I think that trust has a huge role to play in developing the market. I think that a country or an economy that has a trust deficit, the ability to drive or attract credit is low. And credit is essentially important for economies to grow. And so the flow of credit would increase when people can trust one another. And I think that that's one thing that in Nigeria, we need to be able to trust. I mean, most people would you transfer money to me, you can't go until I get the alert, or please write your phone number and your address and whatever. But if you were in a society where trust was high, you'd be like, okay, I've paid. They trust that you've paid when you say you've paid. And I think that that's part of the issue. So there's a culture, so beyond whatever the government can do and what the private sector can do, there's the human factor, what are we doing from a cultural perspective? And I think that that's really critical. It starts from you and I, and then that will kind of spread to other people as well. The equities market is where you get an opportunity to share in other people's prosperity, and is also a place where people also go to raise capital to actualize their own goals and dreams. There are sayings that in different languages across the country or the continent or even the world that talks about if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. I think the capital market allows you to go with others.